Greetings, this is Neosho County Community College, Computer Concepts and Applications, CSIS 100. In this chapter, Chapter 9, we'll be working with functions, charts, tables, and page layout options in Excel. In the previous chapter, Chapter 8, we mainly focused on formulas that were considered relative addresses, where column letters and row numbers change relative to the destination when a formula is copied. Excel's function library is updated and expanded with each new release of the software. Several hundred pre-programmed formulas grouped by category in the function library are used to perform data analysis, decision making, or data modeling. On page 258 of your textbooks, relative addresses are explained and examples given. We'll begin by opening up a file called the Financial Planner. This can be found on Inside NC under this particular video tutorial, or you may locate the file on the student data CD that came with your textbook. After opening the file, please take a moment and resave the file as the same name, except put your last name at the end. Save to your student data files or a location of your choice. Review the worksheet. Notice that there are 3 rates in row 2. These rates will be used to calculate gross pay, payroll deductions, and savings amounts. Let's make C4 the active cell. In cell C4, we'll enter a formula of B4 times B2. This will take the pay rate and multiply it by the estimated number of hours worked. Press Ctrl Enter. Using the fill handle, let's copy C4 through range C5 through C30. Notice that in cell C5 there is a value error. Look at cell B3 as a label. Because it's a label, it has no mathematical value, so filling down will not work as a regular relative address as previously done in Chapter 8. Instead, we'll need to use an absolute value. Select range C5 through C30 and press Delete. Make C4 the active cell, and in order to make this an absolute reference, we will have to place a $sign before and after B in the formula of B2. Because we want B2 to remain the constant, we have to create an absolute reference to this cell. So, by selecting and putting your cursor in front of B2, press a $sign and then again after it. So it reads $B $2. That way, B2 will remain consistent. Once you've typed the $signs in, press Enter. We will now use the fill handle to copy through cell C30. Take a moment and look at the cells that fall in that range. Look to note that cell B2 remains constant, so the number of hours worked are multiplied by the same cell. Now, let's make cell D4 active. In cell D4, we'll create a formula that multiplies C4 by an absolute reference of cell E2. So, your cell will read C4 times $E $2. Now, let's make cell E4 the active cell and we'll enter the formula equals C4, which is our gross pay, minus our payroll deductions of D4. Select D4, range E4, and use the fill handle to copy the formulas down through row 30. Take note of the absolute references in column C and D. Remember that a cell or a range can be referenced by a descriptive label, which makes a formula easier to understand. For example, the formula hours times pay rate is readily understood. Names are also used when a formula needs an absolute reference because a cell or range name is automatically absolute. To do this, let's select G2 as the active cell. In here, we're going to type in a name to save this cell as a specific name instead of a reference. So in the very top left-hand corner, look for the name box. In the name box, we'll be calling this Save Rate, capital S, capital R, with no spaces, and press Enter. Now, instead of doing this on cell G4, if you make a mistake, and we really intended it to be on G2, remember that you can always undo by using Control Z. Control Z is the shortcut to undo. So instead, put your cursor in cell G2, and now we'll save this as Save Rate. So the savings rate in cell G2 is now not referenced as G2 any longer. It's now referenced as save rate. Now we'll go to cell F4 and make it active. Now instead of referencing that cell, we can call it by its name. We're going to use a formula called equals, and we're going to take our take-home pay, which is E4, and we'll multiply it by the save rate. Notice as you type the save rate in, the text automatically appears for you. To accept it, press Control Enter. The savings plan is now $50.58, which is 10% of the take-home pay. Use the fill handle in F4 to copy the formula through F30. Save this revised workbook. Turning over to page 260 of your textbooks, we'll now use formulas for statistical functions. Make sure that the Financial Planner workbook is still open. We'll also make I4 the active cell. Let's tap or click the Auto Sum button under the Editing group using the drop-down feature. You'll notice that there are several common functions provided. We're going to select Average. Excel enters an average of B4, range H4. With range B4, H4 highlighted in the formula cell, select B4, range B30, and then press Enter. This takes the average hours, range B4, B30. So the average hours worked by this employee is 68.96. In the same manner, we'll now choose to make cell I5 the active cell. For the maximum number of hours worked, we'll choose a function from the Auto Sum drop-down menu. From here, we'll select the max. Then we will also select the same range as we did previously, which is B4 through B30, and press enter. The maximum number of hours worked was 80. In the same manner, we'll now do the same thing for the minimum hours worked. However, this time we'll select the min function. Be sure to choose the range B4 through B30. The minimum number of hours worked by this employee is 48. Excel's Insert Function dialog box assists with finding and entering functions and their arguments into a formula cell. From here, let's select I8 as the active cell. We're wanting to know what the average savings are for this employee. Tap or click the Insert Function button in the formula bar. In the formula ribbon, you'll notice that there's an Insert Function option at the very far left-hand side. This is Excel's library of all the functions that it houses. Note that you can scroll through and locate the function that you're looking for. You can also conduct a search at the top and write a brief description of what you're wanting to do and select Go. Or you can choose a category of functions. Notice that all functions are broken down into various categories, including financial, date and time, database, information, and user-defined. We're going to select All. By selecting All, you can get a complete library of all of the functions that Microsoft Excel offers. Scroll through the list and locate the average function. Once you locate the average function, select OK. Now, we have a dialog box that is asking us what the arguments are. For the first number in the number 1 text box, we will type in F4 range F30. Notice you could have also selected the small thumbnail to the right and highlighted the cells that you needed. From here, select OK. This gives you the average savings of column F in Savings Plan 1, which is $52.86. Now, let's make cell I9 the active cell. This time, we're going back to the Home ribbon and selecting the AutoSum tool. Note that you can also select more functions from the bottom of the list, and this brings up the same Insert Function dialog box as we previously worked with before. Now that we have the more functions, let's do a search for max. The max function is listed on the top of the list. Select OK. For the number, I'm going to select the thumbnail and then highlight range F4, F30. Select the thumbnail again to open up the argument. From here, select OK. The maximum savings amount is $61.32. Now make cell I10 the active cell. From the drop-down of the AutoSum tool, we'll select Min, and then highlight your range of F4, F30. The minimum dollar amount of savings is $36.79. Save your revised workbook, Control S. On page 262 of your textbook, and we still have the financial planner open, let's make I2 the active cell. Here, it's asking us to place the date in which this worksheet has been prepared. Let's type in December 12/20/2014 and press enter. Notice that the date appears in the number format list box. Clear the contents of I2. Another way of typing in the data is to create a formula, beginning with equals and then spelling out the word today. After you type the word today, put an open and closing parentheses at the end and then tap or press enter. That will put in today's date of when the worksheet has been completed. Make B3 the active cell. Insert a new column. Type pay date in cell B3. Notice the formatting of the text matches the other columns at the top. After typing in pay date, tap or click on A3. Type end date. Then press enter. Select range A3, B3 and center align the cells. Make B4 the active cell. In this cell, we'll be creating a formula that takes A4, which is the end pay date, and we're going to add 7 days to it. That gives us a pay date of January 16th. Use the fill handle in cell B4 to copy the formula down to range B30. This adds 7 days to the end of the payday, giving us the actual pay date the money is dispersed. Now let's select range A4, B30. From here, we'll select the number format list arrow, and then select more number formats. At the Format Cells dialog box with date selected, tap or click 14-MAR-12. Mine is reflecting 01. That's the type that we want to select. Then select OK. This will format the end date and the pay date accordingly. Save the revised workbook using the same name. On the bottom of page 263, note that the other dates are available and how Excel recognizes them as valid dates and times. You can also enter dates into cells as date functions, as described on the bottom of page 263. Logical functions are used when you need a formula to perform a calculation based upon a condition or a comparison of a cell with a value or the contents of another cell. For example, in column G of the Income and Savings Planner worksheet, you calculated a savings value based on the take-home pay amounts in column F. Suppose you decide that you cannot afford to contribute to your savings plan unless your take-home pay is more than $500. The formula in column G does not accommodate this scenario. However, an if formula can analyze the take-home pay and calculate the savings for those values that are over your minimum. Make cell H4 the active cell. Tap or click the Formulas tab. The category drop-down list in the function library group are another way that you can find an Excel function to insert into a cell. Tap or click the Logical button in the function library. Look for the if scenario. With the insertion point positioned in the Logical test box, at the Function Arguments dialog box, we'll be typing in F4 is greater than 500. This tells Excel to determine if the value that resides in F4 is greater than $500. All logical tests result in either a true or a false response. Either the value is greater than, true, or the value is not greater than, false. If the value is false, then we will not want to calculate a 10% savings plan. So if the value is true, we're going to create a formula that will take F4, which is our take-home pay, and multiply it by the saving rate. If the value is false and the value is not greater than $500, then we want to place in 0 in that cell and select OK. Notice for saving plan number 2, the take-home pay was greater than $500. Therefore, a 10% savings plan could be implemented. Now, we'll use the fill handle to copy the formula through H30. If the take-home pay is greater than $500, the employee will have a 10% savings plan opportunity. If it's less, the amount results to 0. Review the results. Now, let's select C4 range H30. Notice that there is an autofill options that still appears on the right-hand corner of what we just selected. We'll continue to ignore that from this moment, at this moment. If you're using Microsoft Excel 2013, you'll also notice another shortcut at the bottom corner called Quick Analysis. By selecting that button, you'll be able to get an analysis of all of the totals in the chart. Next, let's select range D4, H31. Let's apply the comma style to our data. Let's also apply the comma style to C2 as well as J4, range J10. In cell F2 and H2, I'm applying the percent style. Next, select cell C31, range H31, and apply a top and double bottom border. And save the revised worksheet. Notice on the bottom of page 265 some other if statement logical test examples for you to follow along with. Notice there are 2 sheets in this workbook. We've been working on the income and savings worksheet. Now, let's select the Loan Planner tab. Make B7 the active cell. Tap or click the Formulas tab. We're also looking for the Financial Library. Under the Financial Library, tap and click the PMT function. Now we have a new dialog box that appears that asks us what the arguments are. With the insertion point positioned in the Rate text box, we are going to tap or click B4, which is 9.75%, and we'll divide it by 12. Next, we'll select the NPER text box. Tap or click on cell B5. This is the number of years. And multiply by 12. The value in B5 is the number of years you will take to pay back the loan. Multiplying the value times 12 will convert the value to the number of months to repay the loan. Tap or click in the PV text box, and then select cell B3. PV stands for present value and represents the amount you want to borrow. This can also be referred to as the principal. Notice the amount borrowed is entered as a negative value in this worksheet. By default, Excel considers payments as negative values because money is subtracted from your bank balance when you make a loan payment. By entering a negative number for the amount borrowed, the PMT formula will return a positive value for the calculated loan payment. Whether you prefer to show a negative value for the amount borrowed or for the estimated monthly loan payment, it's just a matter of personal preference. Both options are acceptable. Tap or click OK. Excel returns the payment amount of $482.25. Look in the formula bar at the PMT statement entered. Make B9 the active cell. Enter the formula of B7, which is your estimated monthly payment amount, times B5, the amount of years that you want to be paying on your loan, times 12. Excel calculates the total paid over the life of your loan of $17,360.97. Change the value in B5 from a 3-year term to a 4-year term. Notice your monthly payments will decrease, but the total paid over the life of a loan will eventually increase. Save your revised financial planner workbook. Another useful financial function is FV, and this will be used to calculate the future value of a series of regular payments. For example, if you deposit $100 each month for 10 years with an interest of 9.75%, the FV function will calculate the value of the account after the 10-year period. Turning over to page 268 of your textbook, we'll now work with charts. The first chart that we're going to work with is a pie chart, or a pie slice. Charts are often used to provide a visual snapshot of data. Many readers find that charts illustrate trends, proportions, and comparisons much more distinctively than numbers alone. There are 10 categories of charts that Excel offers. We're going to begin by opening a workbook called Social Media Stats. This file can be found on Inside NC, or you can locate it on the student data files that came with your textbook. Take a moment and locate your Chapter 9 student data files and locate the file Social Media Stats. Once you've opened your file, please be sure to resave it to include your last name at the end. Here we have a social media website trend-setting data table. We have several different social media websites with the percent of the market share statistics. Notice that we also have a Facebook tab and a Facebook user timeline with some additional statistics. Starting on the Social Media Websites tab, let's select range A5 through B10. Before we can insert a chart, you first have to select the data that you want to represent in the chart. Next, we'll select the Insert tab from the top. Keep in mind, if you're using 2013, you'll simply need to choose the Quick Analysis button that appears right below your selection. If you're using 2010, the chart feature is still found under the Insert menu. Then, simply choose the pie chart. Select any pie chart of your choice. Notice the pie chart inserts very quickly, takes all of the social media websites and puts them into individual pie slices based on their values. Excel graphs the data in a pie chart and it overlaps it onto the worksheet cells. Notice also that the chart object is selected with selection handles. With the chart selected, you can drag and drop it beneath the table. If you're using 2013, you'll have a Chart Elements button with a plus sign to the right of the chart. From there, you can turn on the data labels and also view the legend. If you're using 2010, the data labels are found under the Layout tab at the top on the Chart Tools ribbon. Let's turn on the data labels and put them towards the outside, or if you're in 2013, it will be called to the right. Next, it's always a good idea to add a chart title to our chart. So next I'm going to select a chart title and I'll put it above the chart. Triple clicking on the chart title will select all of the text for us. Then we can add our own chart title of Global Market Share. Next, we're going to add an additional chart, completing the steps very similar from what we have just done. First, let's select range C5, D10. I'm going to choose to insert another pie chart. This pie chart, I'm going to move so it's side by side at the bottom of the worksheet. Let's add data labels to this pie chart as well. And we'll apply a chart title. This title will be called United States Market Share. Save your workbook. Next, we're going to be working with a column chart. Each data point is a colored bar that extends up from the category axis, or the horizontal axis, with the bar height representing the data point's value on the value axis, or the vertical axis. We'll use a column chart to compare one or more series of data side by side. Column charts are often used to identify trends or illustrate comparisons over time or categories. With the social media stats still open, let's select the Facebook Sheet tab. From here, let's select range A7, B14. If you are using 2013, be sure to use the Quick Analysis button at the bottom of your selection. If you're not, you'll need to go up to the Insert and select the column. We're looking for a clustered style chart. Once you select the clustered style, the chart will automatically display. Next, we'll move the chart so it's right to the right of our table. Then I'm just going to make my table a little larger so it fills over to column A and down to row 14. If you're using 2013, you'll notice a paintbrush in the upper right-hand corner. Selecting that will allow you to choose a style of your choice. If you're using 2010, you'll need to use the design styles up at the top. Choose a style of your choice. In 2013, you also have the option of showing some additional chart elements, including the axis titles. Make a selection to select both the axis titles, and the chart title. In 2010, we'll need to select the Layout tab and then select the axis titles. For the primary horizontal axis, I'm going to show it below. For the vertical axis, I'll show it as a vertical title. Next, we can fill in the titles. So on the left-hand side on my vertical axis, I'm going to type in millions. At the bottom on my horizontal axis title, I'll be typing in years. Next, I'm going to display my chart title. And for the chart title, we'll call this Facebook Audience by Age Group. You may need to make your font smaller so it fits on the chart. Once completed, save your work. You'll notice that my series is still displayed, my legend, and since we only have one series of data here, I'll go ahead and take the series off. Moving over to page 272, we'll now work with creating and modifying a line chart. Line charts are best suited for data where you want to illustrate trends and changes in values over a period of time. With a line chart, a reader can easily spot a trend or identify growth spurts, dips, or unusual points in the series. Line charts are also often used to help predict future values. We still have our social media stats workbook open. Now we're going to travel to the third tab called Facebook User Timeline. From here, we'll select the range A4B12. Using 2013, you can use the Quick Analysis button at the bottom, or if you're using 2010, we'll choose to insert a line chart. From the line chart, select a line chart of your choice. Now, this line chart appears on the same worksheet just like the other charts did. Instead of moving this and repositioning it as we've done on the previous tabs, we're going to select the Move Chart button. This can be found in the top right-hand corner on the Design tab of your chart tools. Moving the chart, we can select a new sheet. Let's give this a name of FB User Timeline Chart and select OK. Moving a chart to its own chart sheet automatically scales the chart to fit a letter-sized page. With the Chart Tools Design tab still active, now we can choose a different design for our chart. Let's choose a chart style of your choice. We'll also edit the chart title, and the chart title will read Facebook User Timeline. In the next step, we're going to correct the access labels. Excel incorrectly converted the dates that were in column A, changing them to December to January. So, to fix the dates, we'll select the dates on the very bottom on the horizontal axis. Make sure that you see a border and selection handles around the outside edge. Double tap or double click inside the selected axis series. You will see the Format Access task pane that appears. From this menu, you'll want to select the text access in the Access options. Under Access Options, look and see if you can find the Text Access. Go ahead and select Text Access one time. Notice the access labels change to show the December dates as they appeared in the worksheet. Close the Format Access task pane. Tap or click any data value on a data point. Notice the entire series is then selected. By selecting the entire series, we can format under the Chart tools. We'll select to add the data labels above the position. You may also want to change the format of the font so it's a smaller size, and I'm going to change it to a bold. From here, let's save our changes. Remember, if you're using 2013, there are several different features on page 273, including the Format Data Labels dialog box. On page 274, we'll now work with using Page Layout View, adding a header, and changing margins. In the Page Layout View, you can preview a page layout options, very similar to the Print Preview. However, you have the advantage of being able to edit the worksheet. The worksheet is divided into pages with white space around the edges of each page, showing the size of the margins, and a ruler along the top and left of the column letters and row numbers. Pages and cells outside the active worksheet are grayed out. We still have the Social Media Stats workbook open. Let's select the Social Media Website Sheet tab. From here, we'll select cell E1. Tap or click the View tab and then select Page Layout. Notice in Page Layout view, you can see that the right pie chart is split over 2 pages. Let's change the orientation of our page to landscape. To do this, we'll click on the Orientation button in the Page Setup group. Under the Page Layout group, let's select the orientation and change to Landscape. You'll also notice that we're still going across the page. So from here, we'll go ahead and scale to fit the group. We'll do this under the Width List arrow in the Scale to Fit group. Selecting one page from the width under Scale to Fit will ensure that we only will be able to have one page when we print. Next, we'll be inserting a header and a footer in our document. As with Word, a header prints at the top of each page and a footer prints at the bottom of each page. Headers and footers are divided into 3 sections, with the left section left aligned, the center section centered, and the right section right aligned by default. You'll notice the 3 areas as I move my mouse across the workbook. Tap or click the dim text where it says Click to Add Header near the top center of the page. Type your first and last name. Tap or click at the right of the center section text box in the header pane. In this area, we'll be typing in the name of our sheet, but instead of typing it, we'll use a formula to do so. Notice there's a sheet name tool underneath the header and footer design tools. Select this option. Excel inserts the code &tab, which is replaced with the sheet tab name when you tap or click outside the header section. Next, tap or click at the left of the header pane. From here, we'll select the file name. Excel inserts the code &file, which is replaced with the file name when you tap or click in the worksheet area. Tap or click in any cell in the worksheet area. You will see the name of your file, your name, and then on the last cell, you'll notice that you will see the sheet name. Next, we'll work with changing margins. Worksheet margins are set at 0.75 inches on top and on bottom and 0.7 inch left and right, with the header or footer printing at 0.3 inch from the top or bottom of the page. Let's select the page layout option from the top on the ribbon bar. Selecting the margin button will give us 4 pre-formatted options, including the last custom setting, normal, wide, narrow, and we can also choose our own custom margins. We'll select one from the list, choose wide. The wide preset margin option changes the top, bottom, left, and right to 1 inch and the header and footer margins to 1/2 inch. Tap or click the margins button. Next, choose custom. Under the custom margins, you can then select to click the horizontal and vertical checkboxes to center your workbook on the page. Select OK. Next, let's select the Facebook Sheet tab. Change to the page layout view. Modify the print options by completing steps similar to those that we previously have done. Save your revised workbook. Turning over to page 276, we'll now create and modify Sparklines and insert comments. Sparklines are miniature charts inserted into individual cells within a range in the worksheet. Sparklines are used to draw attention to trends or variations in data on a smaller scale than a column or line chart. Excel offers 3 types of Sparkline charts: a line, a column, or a win-loss. A comment attached to a cell pops up when the reader points or clicks on the cell. Comments are used to add explanatory information, pose questions, or provide other feedback to readers when a workbook is shared. We're going to begin working in a new workbook called School Budget. Be sure to save this file, as you'll need this file to upload to your assignment on Insight NC. Next, we're looking for a file called School Budget. It will be found on this particular assignment on Insight NC or on the student data CD that came with your textbook. Locate your student data files for Chapter 9 and then locate the School Budget workbook. Be sure to resave the file, including your last name at the end. Save to your student data files or your preference of choice. Let's take a look at this workbook. There's one sheet and it includes a school budget that includes expenses, income, and cash left over. This is very familiar from Chapter 8. Let's make K3 the active cell. In cell K3, we'll be inserting a Sparkline chart. This can be found under the Insert menu. Sparklines have their own groups on the Insert menu. There's a line, a column, or a win-loss. We'll select the column. Next, it asks us to choose the data that we want to select from. The data that we'll be representing is range B3 I3. The location will be placed in K3. Select OK. You'll notice a very small miniature column Sparkline that appears. It embeds a column chart within the cell. Use the fill handle to copy the Sparkline column chart from K3 all the way down to K11. Notice that you can also select each of these Sparklines individually and choose what the high point is by selecting the check mark under the Design ribbon under Sparkline Tools. Now we can show the high point for each of the Sparklines. You can also choose from the Design group and look to see if you can find one that's got the red high point. So all of the other data's cells will be black, but the high point would be red. Select this option. Let's make K2 the active cell. In cell K2, we're going to type in trend and press enter. Notice that the formatting continues from the left. Then go to cell E9. Here we're going to add a comment. Comments are found under the Review tab. Select New Comment. Under the new comment, we're going to type in assuming extra hours during Christmas break. Tap or click on cell I3. Notice there's a little red triangle in the top right-hand corner. Excel will make a diagonal line coming from that red corner with the description of the comment. Tap or click the New Comment button when you're in cell I3. We're going to type in the comment, may be able to use last month's rent, and then click in any cell. Tap on cell I3. You can choose to show or hide the comment under the Comments group. Select Show Hide Comment. This will also disable or enable the comment. If you want to edit the comment, you may also click inside of the note and edit the comment. Let's edit this comment to reflect another sentence which lowers this value to 55. Tap or click on any cell to finish editing the comment. You can select the Show All Comments to view all comments, and then you can remove them. Save the revised workbook. On page 278, the last concept of this unit is to format a range of cells as a table to analyze, sort, and filter data as an independent unit. The workbook that we'll be using is called a calorie activity table and can be found on this particular assignment on Inside NC, or it can be found on your student data files. Please take a moment and locate the calorie activity table located on your student data files, which can be found in Chapter 9. After opening the file, please be sure to resave the file with your last name attached at the end to your student data files. A filter temporarily hides any data that does not meet a criterion. You can use filters to look at subsets of data without deleting rows in the table. Now that we have the workbook opened and resaved, we can begin to work with this data as a table. Let's select range A3, D23. From here, we're going to tap on the Quick Analysis button at the bottom if you're using 2013, and then select the Tables tab. If you're not using 2013, you'll want to go back to the Home ribbon and format this data as a table, which is found in the middle of the Home tab. Choose a style of your choice. After selecting the style, it will ask you where the data is for your table, which we already have. Also make note that your table does have headers. Choose OK. Now that we have formatted this as a table, you'll notice that there are drop-down menus that will allow for additional sorting. Let's make A4 the active cell. Here, you can change the styles of your cells. To change your style, you'll select from the Style menu, Format as Table, and choose the medium style, the first option in the black and the gray. Tap or click the Filter button at the top of the Activity column. From here, you can sort from A to Z. This puts the activities in alphabetical order at a touch of a button. You can also tap or click the filter button at the top of the person at 155 pounds. From here, you can conduct a customized filter. Tap or point to the number filters. Then select greater than. Type 200 and select OK. You have just filtered a person at 155 pounds. For anyone that weighs more than 200 pounds, you have just conducted that filter. To remove the filter, select the drop down again and choose Clear Filter. Save your workbook. That concludes Chapter 9 of Microsoft Excel. It also includes our Microsoft Excel unit for computer concepts and applications. There are 3 files you'll need to upload to complete this activity. Thanks for joining me for the Microsoft Excel unit. I look forward to working with you in Chapter 10, where we'll explore Microsoft PowerPoint.